I've made tens of millions of dollars by the age of 22. And I've also spent millions of dollars just on my personal life. And that's why I'm compiling a list of the 7 best purchases you can make in your 20s. Now look, this isn't gonna be some typical list where I tell you guys to get a Roth IRA or to invest in knowledge. Because quite frankly, those things are true. It's good vanilla information, but you're gonna hear it just, re-spewed by 101 different YouTubers online. I wanna personally give you the best purchases you can make from someone who, as I said, has actually spent millions and millions of dollars on their personal life, so I can tell you what's worth spending money on and what's not so wise to spend your money on. So if you want a list of the best purchases, which doesn't sound like just a mashup of 3 of the most popular self-help books, this is the video for you. Now here's the truth. Your 20s is for becoming a man of substance. I would say that the main focus needs to be building yourself up financially, making money. But here's the thing, you could make $1 million a year, but if your career and your work entails you sitting at your desk for 365 days of the year, you need to understand that doesn't make you a brilliant character. That doesn't give you any stories to tell in the future. That doesn't make you a man or a person of substance. This is why the first best purchase in your 20s is traveling. You need to understand that the world is more than just your city. And this is where I absolutely love roasting Americans because, I get it. Like America is kind of a little isolated. You got, Mexico, I guess. You've got some of South America. But, for most Americans, a lot of them have never left the United States.
I believe that's Africa?
Nope.
That would be Asia.
No, that's Africa. What is this?
I don't know.
How about this?
I don't know. Nope.
This?
Nope.
This?
And it's so crazy. They don't understand that there's different cultures, and they don't understand that in most cities, 7-Elevens don't exist, or just like even weird little things. Like they don't understand that air conditioning, like in most of Europe, you just don't get air conditioning in most of the places unless it's like a new build apartment or a hotel or something like that. So as I said, this specifically goes out to my Americans. You need to spend money to travel the world. And by the way, very important here, I'm not talking about luxury travel. Luxury travel is nice, and for sure I do a lot of it, but that's not where character is built. I'm talking about the times where you go to remote countries, where you integrate yourself in the culture, where you go trekking, where you, as I said, you really speak to locals and you really start to understand the different cultures, all of the beautiful cultures around the world. Please never ever let someone tell you in your 20s that it's smarter to excessively save and penny pinch compared to spending a lot of that money on traveling. I'm not saying be irresponsible and, blow 80% of your income on traveling. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you need to do it within reason. No matter what situation you are in life, you should always be saving at least 30%, saving/investing 30% of everything you make at a minimum. When it comes to saving and investing, I actually save 70 to 80% of everything that I make. But if that is the case, then go spend money on traveling and also try to go travel places where you can still run your business or your online side hustle or, whatever it is that you are doing. By the way, speaking of making money online, I guess it's just because I've been running online businesses for 6 years, ever since I started my first business when I was still in high school. So sometimes I speak about it nonchalantly, but I understand, people are always wondering, where do I start? So if you want to find out the best online business model to start, I actually use some very interesting data as well as KPIs in order to build the money making matrix. That video is on YouTube. It's gotten over 1 million views this year. You guys seem to absolutely love that video. So if you've been procrastinating on starting an online business, check out that video and I'll run through 5 or 6 of the most popular models and come to a conclusion which one works and which one doesn't. So I'll leave that link in the description for your convenience. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Now, the next purchase to make in your 20s is in your style. And I know a lot of people think that, spending money on clothing is useless. I don't agree. Like, look, your clothing and your style and your fashion says so much about you. So my recommendation to everyone is go get at least one tailored suit, and you can get it from somewhere cheap, a place like Suit Supply. You can get a full suit and then it's tailored. Look, it's not gonna be a bespoke suit or anything, but you can get something off the rack, tailored. You're gonna get the full thing for, as low as $400 or $500 up to, I think some of theirs go up to $600-700 depending on whatever customizations and stuff you make. But to me, that is a pretty cheap suit. And I have a lot of good friends of mine that could afford $5,000 to $10,000 suits and they still only shop at Suit Supply because the quality is great there. Once you start making a bit of money, go take $1,000 and rather than spending it on just some stupid Louis Vuitton or Dior or any of these big, bold brands that just make you, quite frankly, look like I'm just gonna be honest, those brands, when you've got big brand names, Gucci and Louis Vuitton or like Balenciaga, it's just so obvious that one of two things. Either you're someone that is lower to middle class that is wanting to appear rich, and that's just what it is, I'm being honest. And by the way, when I say this is coming from someone who grew up with a single mom, extremely poor, and I wish I could say I was just a genius and I had tons of motivation growing up. No, like, I'll be honest, I started my businesses out of pure desperation to try to take care of me and my mom. So when I say this stuff, I'm not trying to judge you. I was there. So it's either that or someone who makes a lot of money, but they're just not confident in themselves. So they feel like they need to have these big brands and everything, you know, to validate that other people know that they have money. Rather than doing that, go to some good brands, go get, you know, your essentials, go get a few nice t-shirts that fit really well on you. Go find some trousers, make sure they're not too skinny. You know, rather than jeans, get some trousers and then go and get that to a tailor. Most people don't realize, but you know, to get items tailored, it can cost you anywhere from, you know, $20, $30, maybe $40. I would much rather have, you know, rather than a $400 article of clothing that hasn't been tailored and fitted correctly, I'd much rather have a $50 article of clothing and spend $30 on tailoring. You need to understand that in order to have a incredible wardrobe that just sits well, is classic, is timeless, it really doesn't actually cost you that much money. And the great thing is that Gucci shirt, which is cool this year, in 3 years, that won't be cool. Whereas when you buy timeless items, you can use them for the rest of your life. Now, you might be wondering, you know, why am I saying all this stuff? The reason I say this is because you are treated differently depending on the way that you're dressed. Look, your confidence will go through the roof when you are dressed well, when you present yourself well to the world. Now, the next best purchase you can make in your 20s is the tools necessary in order to build a high income skill that will then serve you for the rest of your life. I'll give you an example. For me, when I was 15, I took some of the money that I made from my first ever side hustle when I was 14, and I used that to buy a camera. So I used that to learn photography, videography, and that led into me doing client works. And then that eventually led into me having my agency, which was the first business I started when I was 16. I was a creative agency for a year. And then from there, I transitioned into more of a performance marketing agency. And you know, even still to this day, even in my position where I make over $10 million a year between all of my businesses, and that's not revenue, by the way, that's post-tax income. Obviously, as a lot of you guys know, I live in Dubai, so I don't pay tax. And although that's a monumental sum of money, there's so many little skills that I've picked up over the years. There's so many high income skills that I've picked up over the years that, like, if I lost everything, literally everything, I know that I'm always fine. And that's just like, it's a cool thought. Let's say you want to learn sales, for example. A lot of people, you know, they just buy sales courses and stuff like that. I recommend you take improv classes. I recommend you go to public speaking classes. You know, this is money that you can invest in to really hone in and really refine the skill. Let's say, for example, you want to learn code. Obviously, there's a bunch of really good courses and programs out there dedicated specifically to that. So whatever it is, you know, whatever you decide your high income skill will be, buy the tools necessary in order to cultivate that. Now, the next purchase is something that a lot of people will really sort of disagree with me on, but I want you to put your ego to the side and just listen to me, please. The next best purchase you can make in your 20s is a watch. And by that, I specifically mean an expensive timepiece that holds its value and is recognizable by other people. You know, I've had many people tell me that I'm an idiot for having at this point almost $4 million watch collection. And yet for my, let's say $3.5 million watch collection, I've only put in maybe $2.2 million out of that. So I've made, you know, well over $1 million just by owning watches. Obviously, because very early into me making money, I've always been very passionate about watches. So I have a good relationship with the brand where, you know, if I buy a watch, I walk out and it's instantly worth, you know, substantially more than I paid for it. You'll start to understand this over the years. There's a difference between spending money and parking money. You know, for example, there's a lot of watches out there where, let's say you spend $10,000 on it and you walk out the store and it's worth $6,500. I don't recommend you do that. That's not a smart financial decision. What I'm saying is that $10,000 watch you want, let's say, you know, you walk out the store in $6,500. Well, then I recommend you get it from the open market and you buy it for $6,500 because you know it's towards the end of the depreciation curve as is. So I recommend buying a luxury timepiece for everyone watching this as long as you have $30,000 liquid or more. You know, because look, for me, you could have $30,000 in the bank, or you could have a $10,000 watch and then $20,000 in the bank. But having that money in the bank gives you absolutely zero benefits. And whether you like it or not, whether it makes you upset or not, whether you think, oh, the world is superficial or not, the world is the way the world is, okay? So you just gotta deal with it. There are insane benefits of having a watch, and not only, you know, having a watch, a specific type of watch, you know? First of all, it's instant status. It's also conversation starter with other people who are watch collectors and into the watch world. And immediately it sort of sucks you and it pulls you into different groups. I'm just being honest with you. If a client sees that you have a $10,000 or $15,000 Rolex on your wrist, it's literally instant status. It's more credibility. And I know it sucks. You're like, why is the world like this? It's just the way way it is. So for me, it's much wiser to have your money in watches than it is to have it sitting in the bank account just doing nothing. Now, for some of you guys, you have gotten yourself into sticky situations where you have way too much debt. And I'm not talking about the good kind of debt where, you're using the bank's money in order to make more money. No, I'm talking about the crippling ultra high interest rates when it comes to things, for example, like credit cards. If you are late on your credit card payments before anything else, this should be your number one priority, because the interest rates that you're being charged, it's not like you're going to get an outsized return investing compared to, as I said, the interest rate that you're paying with a lot of these credit cards. So your number one focus in life should be paying off those debts as quickly as humanly possible. Credit cards, if you don't know what you're doing, will be a living nightmare and will literally ruin your life. As horrible as it sounds, these people that are financially irresponsible subsidize all of the benefits. For example, in my case, between my personal account and the different businesses, just my Amex points alone, I get something like 20 or 30 first class flights a year. I fly $10,000 Emirates first class flights all the time, and I basically never actually have to pay for them. It's great. But as I said, the only reason that's possible is because all of the benefits I'm receiving are subsidized by the people that were financially irresponsible. And it's really, really sad to see. And I can just imagine how crippling it is and how daunting it is for people that are suffering from credit card debt. So, compared to everything else I've mentioned here, paying off your credit card debts is by far the best thing that you can do. Now, the next best purchase is something that you're not going to hear from many people. And the next purchase that I recommend you make is a coach in a hobby that has nothing to do with making money. Look, let me tell you something. Back in especially 2017 and 2018, when my business started to really take off and I was, making really good money. I mean, at 2018, at the age of 18, I made my first $1 million in a year profit. I was working with a monastic focus, a monk-like focus. I was making money, of course, but the funny thing is 2019, the year after, I actually just decided, I'm going to have more hobbies. I'm going to get coaches for different hobbies that I want to have. And the funny thing is I made more money and I did it in a more effortless way. Here's the most important thing. I recommend that you incorporate other hobbies into your life. And a lot of entrepreneurs are like, no, just focus on the main thing. The main thing is the main thing. And you should just focus on business. That's all that should matter. But I don't believe that. I think you should have hobbies, but here's the key. You should have a hobby and you should have interests that you actually nurture in areas that still challenge you. So what I mean by that is, literally earlier this morning, I had a tennis coach. Now, in some place in the world, I think it's a little different, but at least in the UK, growing up, tennis was just a rich person thing. So I didn't go to tennis classes. I don't know, it just wasn't really a thing. So for me growing up, I decided, hey, once I start making some money, I really want to get into tennis. So I started back in 2019 and then I'm picking it up now. I've spent an hour and a half multiple times a week playing tennis. And I can tell you, when I sit at my desk, I feel more motivated. I feel more disciplined. I feel more excited for the day because I'm I've already challenged myself in something outside of business. A large part of it as well is going through the phase of sucking, right? Because the thing is, you guys will get to a point with your business where you're actually really good at it, right? You're really good at it and you don't experience that feeling of I'm stuck, or I feel as though I'm not competent, or I feel as though I don't know what the next step is. So I think it's really important in your life to actually have things where you're a beginner and you're trying. I had this experience maybe 9 months ago or something like that. Once again, growing up, skiing, or at least if you lived in the UK, was a rich person thing. So I had never been skiing in my entire life until the age of 21, literally as I was about to turn 22. So 9 months ago, I put on my skis for the first time ever, and I was just terrible for the first few days. And eventually, after a few days of coaching, I got really good. And when I sat back down at my desk, every day after skiing, I just felt so much energy. And I'm it really just revitalizes you. And I think it's so important, as I said, to spend money on coaches for hobbies that don't have to do with, just work and focus, something that challenges you. Another great example is chess. Learn chess or get an online chess coach. Or, let's say you want to learn how to play guitar or piano, find an online coach for stuff like this. Now, the final best purchase you can make in your 20s is investing. And I left this for last because you can look at 101 different YouTube videos out there. They're all going to say the same thing. And I will say, after paying off your credit card debt, this is by far the best next option. I think a lot of people out there, if they can only invest $50 a month, they're like, oh, what's the point? This isn't going to turn into a massive portfolio. That's not the point. The point is that if you're investing $50 every single month, once you get to a point where you can invest $500 a month, you still have that habit ingrained inside of you. And I know for some of you guys, this sounds crazy, but I'm telling you right now, if you start at a young age, you have time on your hands. Time is the most powerful asset on earth. So you might get to a stage age where you're 40 or 50 and you can invest $50,000 a month, or, you know, maybe even $500,000 a month. I know this sounds crazy, but trust me, you can accomplish a lot in a decade or 2 decades time. And the thing is, if you start these habits young to actually invest, then it just becomes effortless. It's second nature. So the best thing that you can do in your 20s is just start DCAing. DCA basically means dollar cost average. So every week or every month, just invest into the markets. Now, my best recommendation is either stocks or crypto. I'm not actually a massive fan of stocks. Well, I will say, you know, at the time of recording this, with the way the stock prices are, I find them a lot more appealing, at least these days. So the best thing you can do is just make a commitment that every week or every month, I'm going to invest the same amount. And you basically tell yourself whether the markets are down, whether they're up, it doesn't matter. I just invest. I just make sure that I have time in the market. And the reason I recommend stocks or crypto, by the way, is because they're fractional. You can buy fractions of something. Whereas, like, you know, I guess for me, just at a young age, I always thought, okay, real, you know, big wealth in terms of, you know, owning assets is owning property, and property is great. I recommend it for everyone here. But obviously you can't buy a fraction of a house. Well, I guess, you know, there are some companies out there that are trying to do that, but you kind of get my point. It's just much easier to dollar cost average into the stock market or the crypto market every week or every month. Ladies and gentlemen, this video will get you started. And as I said, I've shared things here that you probably have not heard anywhere else on the internet, and probably contradicts a lot of these, you know, self-help guru, but like, look, anyways, whatever. I created another video called the 8 money tips for millionaires. I'm going to leave that right here. This video is great, but if you watch that video, it's going to 10x your results.